Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. It's your Tuesday bulletin. It's a familiar look about the Tuesday bulletin. The gang is back together again. The forays are on. Myself, Declan, James up there at the top of me, Liam with an old retro jersey on there, and Lawrence down the bottom. And we were saying before there, Lawrence, we were on yesterday. I'll try and change the questions up for you today because I don't want people getting bored of your patter, which I never get bored of your patter anyway.
Yeah, awesome.
Listen, me, I won't remember what I said yesterday, so
Look, feel free to spend another hour getting ripped into Rangers. I'm quite happy to sit back and enjoy that.
Bill the Bottler refuses to play his big signings.
Well, I want to first start with a very positive note, and of course the smiles are still going to be here, I think, on all our faces and on this channel for a good while to come. But Ange, Liam, I'll come to you in this first. He certainly came out swinging after the game. I think he's been keeping that for a wee while. You heard him after the St Mirren game, when John Kennedy had him strapped up in the chair in the room with him. He didn't bother to go to the presser that week because he knew what was coming his way. But he came out swinging in the presser after the cup final, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Asking Alan McCoy's for a lift back to the stadium, that was just priceless. That's going to be one of those moments that just gets, repeated again and again. No, he totally... it's great. We now have a manager who dominates the press off the park to the same extent that the team dominate Rangers on the park. So I'm very, very pleased with how he is proceeding with that.
Yeah, it was positive to see these snippets come out. James, I'll read you the quote here. He said, "I'm still here, even though people have been getting me out the door. I think you'll be surprised how long I'm here. I'm consumed by trying to make this club the best it can be, and I'll enjoy every minute of it." I think for people who are already maybe having sleepless nights over dominant Celtic, these sleepless nights are going to continue for a good while yet.
Yeah, it's exactly the sort of quotes you want to hear for the Celtic manager after just winning that trophy as well. Series here for the long one. I was pretty nervous. I've seen the podcast before. I think he would have been gone at some point in sort of the next year and a bit. But that gives you sort of all the reassurance you need, all the sort of confidence boost that you can get, and it's just may the good times continue.
Yeah, may the good times roll. You get to roll with it, as the old tune played in Sunday, just after the Celts lifted the cup. Lawrence, you've been around the block in terms of Celtic managers. You've seen many come and go. I think there was still probably a wee bit of Brendan Rodgers syndrome, as people maybe thinking, is it going to happen to us again? That was something I was too worried about. And I think that's just because the profile of character of Ange compared to Brendan's completely different. And, one of the things that stood out for me in those comments he speaks about is, being at a club for 3 years. How many managers actually get the chance to be at a club for 3 years in the modern game?
Yeah, no, he's completely different character from Rodgers. You touch on the 3 years, and that's something Strachan went back to as well, wasn't it? Maybe that's your shelf life. But we enjoy him while he's here. And, he done a sensible thing. He prepared his team to win the cup rather than shouting his mouth off in the press. Then we go out and give him a gubbin. Mate, that was one at a canter. We missed 3 or 4 sitters. Max Ivanovic should have scored. O'Reilly should have scored. Ose should have scored. Absolute canter at a cup final. It's then time to speak when you're proving you can do it in the park. You don't do it when you're 9 points behind and miles away from your rivals. Come out in the press and go, we're the best team. But, in whose world? Because, they're not catching us up in points. You're
the goal difference is getting worse.
Taking trophies. You've got 9 players out of contract. You've got a manager that makes 2 big signings, balls it, refuses to start them. Things can only get worse for him and better for us.
Lawrence painting an absolutely fantastic picture this Tuesday afternoon, Liam. But it's reality, and I think there is some people beginning to wake up to that reality. But again, even in the manager's comments, he speaks about ambition, and he fires right into the journalists with that one, saying that they'll be the first to kind of hat him down. He says, "I'm going into my third year next year, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and not really worry about what other people see, because I'll tell you what, the first thing that will be said, and one of you journalists will be the first ones to do it, as I am not ambitious enough because I am not moving on." He seems very firmly with his 2 feet planted in the ground here in Glasgow for a good while yet. James, I'll come to you in the capital. I think we're having some technical issues in Japan. We will get back to Liam on that, and we'll get him rigged back in. But James, I'll come to you in that one there. It's just the stuff you want to hear. He's waving. We'll get him back in a second. But tell me what your thoughts are on that, because that's I'm in control here. He's saying to the press.
Yeah, it's when I go is when I go. If the press think that Ange Postecoglou wanting to achieve a form of European success with Celtic isn't ambitious enough, then I don't know what they would claim ambition to be. Would ambition be a bottom feeder in the Premier League? No, ambition is getting big success at a club like Celtic. And if European competition is what we've assumed is his end goal, get us to around the 16 or a deep run in the Europa League or the Conference League. Once he feels he's fulfilled his goals at Celtic, then he'll move on. He's already done a fantastic job, and that's not enough for him. He wants more. And it's, as I said earlier, may the good times continue.
And Liam, in terms of that fantastic job, he came in, he picked a team out off the ground that was 25 points behind in the league. He had to do a rebuild. He had to bring in a lot of new recruits. He had to bring in experienced players. Losing a figure like Scott Brown at the club was always going to be really, really difficult. But he's now at a point, I would say, with this Celtic team where he just needs to tweak it ever so slightly and then go again and evolve. And that's something he's always looking to continually do.
Yeah. Well, by the way, those technical difficulties, if that was the FBI because of the shirt I've got on, hello. But no, I totally agree with you. The thing is, though, that, I'm a journalism graduate. I do some part-time journalism work on the side at the moment, and it really annoys me that the media in Scotland give actual journalists a really bad name with the way they keep trying to manufacture these stories. They really do seem to approach it, and Ange has seen this coming and just batted it away with all the all the respect it deserves, which is none. Good journalism is where you write a story, then you think of a nice headline to go with it. The headline should always be the last part of the story that's written. But with the Scottish media, it's like, here's a headline. Now let's try and find something to fit the narrative. And the headline for the last month or so has been Ange is at the door. And yet they have not been able to find a shred of actual evidence to back any of this up.
Yeah, not a shred of evidence, and I totally agree with you in that there's far too many times there's flag wavers in the industry that are not calling it as they see it and try to fit a certain narrative, which is never, I don't think that's ever really welcomed by anybody. James, it's just a real positive vibe around Celtic just now. I almost felt, I don't know how you guys feel in this, I'll come to you all in this, but as if Sunday was almost like another chapter written in the season, and you go into another chapter this season. You've kind of broken this season down to parts with the way the World Cup came, international breaks, just with the way Celtic were, the schedule was getting into this game. And always spoken here about rotation in the team. A lot of the times before the World Cup, we were playing Wednesday weekend. January, February, it's been weekend. I think, again, you'll start to see a kind of different Celtic, even kind of post-Cup final now. What's your take on that?
Well, if you're to listen to Alistair Johnson, this is just chapter 1 of 3 chapters. There's still more trophies to be won this season, and I think everybody on this call right now is getting optimistic about a treble, because there is some real chances of that happening. And you're quite right there. It's felt like a two-part season almost because of the World Cup break. We were good before the World Cup break, the captain getting injured, but we still carried on. We were still consistent, and that consistency is carried over right into the second half of the season after the World Cup break. And we've had some breakout stars as well, guys like Maeda and Moy, who a lot of fans maybe had doubts on before the World Cup break. So it's given us confidence in the strength of the squad that we've got at the moment, and that's a testament to Ange Postecoglou. Listen, Celtic turned me into a pessimist during the 10-in-a-row season, but Ange has rapidly turned me back into an optimist, because football he plays, the team he's built, and now the trophies he's winning, all you can feel is confident about Celtic.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think you go into games and you have that wee bit of relaxation. Although the last 20 minutes on Sunday were a wee bit nervy. No anywhere near as bad as that Chris Julian Cup final, but they weren't the most pleasant to experience. Lawrence, you gonna get that wee bit of sense? I feel obviously the manager's spoken a hell of a lot about rotation this season. In different parts, and almost, we were building towards that cup final. There wasn't too many changes in the team. He didn't tinker with it too much. I think when you maybe start to go back in, you've got midweek, you've got a cup game against Hearts at Tynecastle, which I'm sure you'll be going full strength with. You might see a few more wee changes come into the team.
Yeah, you might see more Iwata or Kobayashi. Obviously, Saeed's fit again. You'd expect to see a wee bit more of him. So I think, you'll see some changes. Not too many. One thing stays the same. We play an exciting brand of attack and winning football. Don't expect that to change anytime soon. We'll create loads of chances, concede very few chances. And playing like that, the treble's very much on. The league's done and dusted. Said it months ago. It's can we add the Scottish Cup? If we do, it's another treble. And for us, we've got to be winning at least 2 trophies a season. That set the standards. That is, I think 2 trophies a season now is a minimum for Celtic. The league and one of the cups. Over the other side of the city, Beale keeps harking back to his glory days of being a coach to a guy that won 1 trophy in 9. That's his standard. And it's just different levels, isn't it?
It's different levels. That was the banner at the end of the game. B set the standards. I thought that was a terrific banner, and I think every Celtic fan would I agree with that. A really, really good banner. But Liam, looking at this whole picture just now, it is unfurling just as we hoped it would. And we heard, Lawrence, you've said it a hell of a lot on here about an Ange team in the second season, but you get the feeling as if he's just got that team and that squad just now exactly where he wants them.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's we are all absolutely loving this at the minute. This is great. We're on top. We're dominant. And forget whatever nonsense you're going to read in the papers today. Keith Jackson's article on the Record was absolutely dripping in venom and bitterness and tears. But that game was actually a lot more comfortable than the scoreline would tell you. When you're only 1 goal up, it's a bit shaky, but we could have had another 3 or 4. I'm a wee bit annoyed we didn't, because I've been saying 5-1 all last week. But, this is just the start of what I think is going to be a long, long period of dominance. We are exponentially better than the opposition at the moment, and it's only going to keep going because Ange sees it as well. One of our commenters said it a minute ago, the target now is Europe. We have established that we are the dominant force in Scotland again. The natural order has been restored in that respect. So
good afternoon, Craig Levine.
Yes. How do we kick on from that now? How do we kick on? And Europe is the benchmark, to quote Martin O'Neill. Yeah. We really, that is where we're going to be judged next season. This season, we reasserted domestic dominance. If we can see out a treble, even better. I noticed today an interesting statistic that looking at the photos of celebrations, Celtic's Japanese translator now has more medals than Rangers captain. Just let that one sink in.
It's very true, though. It's absolutely true. 3 medals to his name. The Rangers legend, Hall of Famer James Tavernier, of course, with 2. But James, Liam makes a hell of a lot of good points in that there. With Celtic re-establishing themselves, if you will, re-establishing themselves. It was a season that was played behind closed doors. In terms of when the fans are actually in the stadium, Celtic have been the top team, and it's one bad season, which is all it looks to have been in terms of this. Paul John asked me a really interesting question about that on Friday, and that did I think that this game was going to be something that symbolised how the following months, years, or whatever would pan out. Whether it was going to be a game that if Rangers went and won the cup, it would give them that instilled hope. It would obviously give them another piece of silver beer to add to their marginal two, and see where they go from there. Or if Celtic won the cup, which of course we did, it would spell that dominant period again in the club. Do you think that's going to be the case though? Because I certainly do.
Yeah, it's the cliche that the first trophy this season is usually a really good indicator of how the season is going to go. But I thought it was also a good indicator of where the Celtic squad, the Rangers squad are at this moment. We've been raving about our squad, they've been raving about their squad and their manager. So put them both together and let's see who's really better. And on the park, Celtic proved that they are the better team. And that should, I don't think we needed confidence. The team was already on a high ground into this final. You could see with the way we were playing, the way the midfield was flowing during that final, the team is brimming with confidence, and the League Cup's just added even more onto that, and it should be, as I mentioned earlier, hopefully going for a treble.
Yeah, we hope so. Sorry for any technical difficulties there. I think we've maybe got a wee bug in the background. Lawrence is about to say something cheeky with that, so I can just tell by that smirk on his face there.
I'm just thinking, James is right, they're saying we've got the best team, but it's a bit typical of Scotland, and I suppose the narrative the press spin. 9 games out of 10, and needing a VAR decision or a dodgy penalty to scrape a result. And they're saying, oh, we're brilliant. You're like, what? Have you not been watching us play football? These are absolutely garbage. You speak to Rangers fans and they'll tell you that that's not a good Rangers team. The points is in total contrast to their ability as a team. It's down to, some very fortunate decisions and lack of penalties is where they're getting a point. It's a manufactured title race. It's been done for ages. And first trophy of the season, they still wouldn't give us a league trophy in December. The league was done then. So I just don't know where they are in touch with reality. They've got 9 players out of contract. They've got no money. They've got a guy who used to put cones out for Steven Gerrard as their boss. I don't know if he's any better than Murty. We've got 50 million in the bank. We've got a squad that's growing in value game in game. We've got a manager, that must be the envy of half of Europe, somebody of his quality. So, honestly, don't know where they're even going to come close to this.
Yeah. Liam, there's a lot of points in that, and also to add to that, Celtic have a squad full of assets now. James speaks about that 10 season, if you want to call it that. When your Edward departed at the end, Ayer, Christie, you were looking about the squad and thinking this Celtic team at this point in time has maybe let go of those assets. Who do we bring in now? But the manager's completely transformed that. So as Lawrence says, you've got that money in the bank. You've likely got the potential of Champions League money next season. As he says, if the league's already done, you've got that coming in. Then you've got the assets within your squad. That contrasting with the picture of Rangers is completely different. And they won't have that guaranteed Champions League game. They've got 2 players who could have at one point made them a few quid out of contract. The situation here is contrasting, and it's almost as if you would have thought Rangers might have learned from some of our mistakes, but they certainly haven't that. And they went from a team who were in a European final last season to a team who again could finish the season with absolutely 0 silverware.
And the interesting thing is, talking about the way the manager has built things up, that's another contrast with Rangers. It's not just the signings we've made, it's also the way we've dealt with the outgoings. Ange has been very quick to say, if a particular player for whatever reason doesn't fit with his plan or isn't on board with his idea, it's like, no hard feelings, see you later. We had 2 great servants of the club in Tom Rogic and Nir Bitton last season. At the end of the season, Ange was like, thanks, boys. Good luck. He obviously had plans beyond what those players could bring. Not to say that they're not great players, they are, but obviously the plan moved forward. Meanwhile, at Ibrox, they offered contract extensions to the likes of Alan McGregor and Scott Arfield, who were clearly past it 2 years ago. And I think that's the difference. And again, in January, it's been the same. They go out and sign 2 people that they don't even have the confidence to put them into the starting lineup on Sunday. we strengthened the depth of our squad. And the bench, if you looked at that bench on Sunday, it was like, oh my God, every one of those players, possible exception of Scott Bain, would walk into any other team in Scotland, and quite a few teams in the English Premier League as well. So, we have that squad depth now. Meanwhile, their two probably most sellable assets, despite what I might think of them as players, in Kent and Morelos, are both going to walk away for nothing in about, 8 weeks' time or whatever. So we are really, really on top of things on and off the park. And long may it continue.
Yeah, well, long may it continue, absolutely. Something that I said before the game was the bench was going to play a part, James. I thought it did play a part. Would have been saying it played an even bigger role had O'Reilly and Haksabanovic tucked those 2 goals away, and Liam might have got his cooping up there. It'd have been a wee bit closer to 5-1 than the 2-1. But even what you're looking at in this team, and it's what I was saying earlier on, the manager's got them to a point now where you've got 2 players in each position. Again, as I say, I think we might see a wee bit more of some of them in the coming weeks, but it's just about making very small tweaks and changes to that, whatever that may be in the summer. The picture across the road is completely different for that.
Yeah, it's day and night. It's a complete contrast. I saw that there was a tweet on Twitter. It was for the squads from the 2019 League Cup final. You look at the Celtic squad and the Rangers squad from that day, they've still got the same faces, bar maybe 2 players. Whereas we've got a completely different squad, a complete overhaul, and it's stacked with talent. It got to about the 70-minute point during the final on Sunday, and we're seeing guys like Abada and O'Reilly come on, players that many fans were calling for to start, players that would start for, like Liam said, teams in the Premier League and any other team in the league that we're in at the moment. That's just a testament to the squad. And just his squad building has been absolutely phenomenal. If a player gets injured, no worries. There's a ready-made replacement right there. And if there isn't a ready-made replacement, someone else can fill in, like Matt O'Reilly done in Cal McGregor's role for the majority of that first half of the season. There's so much quality across the park, and I'm confident that if we lose an asset in the summer, there's either someone ready to fill back in, or Ange just signing philosophy as we've seen for the last few years since he's been here. It's been phenomenal. We'll have an adequate replacement, and I have no doubts about that.
Yeah, and I think we'll always be one step ahead of the game. Even there in January, when you maybe thought Yakimakis will go out the door before a replacement's in, that's not how it panned out. We eventually got O in the door. Lawrence, let's talk about that team then. I thought Celtic's midfield, particularly on Sunday, he got it absolutely bang on playing Moy instead of O'Reilly, and he played a really important part in both Celtic's goals, Aaron Moy.
Yeah, well, listen, he's been a brilliant acquisition. I think most has expected him to be a bit of a squad player, but he's one of the players that has taken his chance when he's got minutes. He's made himself first pick. I think that's the first pick midfield just now. Competition for places is keeping performances high. Yeah, Moy's brilliant. Both goals coming down captain penalties side, mistakes in that area. So, but that's what you'd expect from there. Hall of Famer's ability.
Yeah. Liam, I've got to be graphic here. I don't know if it's actually going to work, but it was just something particularly interesting that I seen earlier on. It is going to work there, and it's just looking at Moy's position. So if you look at that Celtic midfield there, you can see Rangers are actually set up pretty well with their back four and whatever else. If you look at that midfield, Moy's dropping into that 10. You're seeing what Hatate just beside McGregor there, and that's when Greg Taylor knows where the space is to go. But a lot of that there is actually down to the space that Hatate's dragging Sakala and Tillman into. They just seem to work that space so well on Sunday.
Well, that was something that I think in both goals as well. The off the ball work is as important as the on the ball work. But of course, if you're watching it on telly in particular, you might not see all the off the ball stuff. I mean, Maeda, the TV were saying he's missed a sitter, but Kyogo stuck it in. But no, he made a front post run which drew 2 Rangers defenders away, which gave Kyogo a tap-in, right? That graphic you just showed there, Moy has found the gap between the Rangers midfield and the defence. Hatate draws the defenders further out. 1-2, Greg Taylor's in, and 2 seconds later it's in the net. It's it's all about the off-the-ball work, and Taylor, Moy, Maeda, and Hatate were all really, really good with that in the first half. And in the second half, when they came on, I thought that and Haksabanovic were good with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and it gave us something different, didn't it? That substitute we owe in the park. That the manager even spoke about that Rangers press was starting to get a wee bit of joy, and he thought he had to drag them back a wee bit because they were starting to kind of play a higher line up the park. I was actually very surprised at how high the line was at times. But James, looking at that kind of graphic there, I think a lot of his thought when Aaron Moy arrived at Celtic, he'd be this defensive type midfielder. But both goals that's one there. I'll see if I can get the other one here. He's playing as the 10, and it's almost like a kind of secondary assist, if you will. He's a guy that's in the position to make that pass, and then bang, 30 seconds later, the ball's in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were doubting him based off a friendly against Norwich City where he wasn't fully fit, which looking back on, that a lot of us, myself included, judged Darren Moy off of that and wrote him off as absolutely berserk, because the way he's seamlessly sort of filled into this Celtic team. I think he mentioned in his press conferences as well, the World Cup was going to be the best opportunity where he would be at his full fitness. I'll be at full fitness by then because I've got this tournament to play for. Same with, and built his confidence as well, the same way it did with Tyson Maeda scoring a World Cup round of 16. Mm-hmm. That's going to do wonders for your confidence when you've got an entire nation cheering you on. And I was glad Liam made the point as well, because it's Maeda's run that drags the two defenders across and allows Kyogo to be completely unmarked. I remember seeing it. I was like, how can you leave a poacher like Kyogo completely unmarked in the box? Because he's going to finish that 9 times out of 10, and it's due to the off-the-ball work that the team's done. Aaron Moy taking up that space. I feel like even when he was called upon defensively, Aaron Moy, there was quite a few times where a Rangers counter-attack was slammed shut before it could even start, because Aaron Moy halts it before it can even get to the final third. Mm-hmm. Not even just his creative play, but the defensive work as well. I think Aaron Moy was absolutely brilliant.
And they were just kind of practically sitting behind the three Celtic strikers. You could see a big part of Rangers' game plan was to, balls out of the midfield, but the defenders, they like that long ball, but a lot of the times when they were trying to get on their bike, they just weren't getting it because Moy was there. And if you actually look at that graphic that I'm talking about that I put up there, Taylor with Tavernier, Lawrence, Tavernier has absolutely no clue where Dyson Maeda is, and he's now got Greg Taylor running towards him, and Tavernier's got Taylor running towards him, and Maeda's already nipped into the box, and he's waiting for Taylor to whip the ball across.
What you're telling me is Tavernier has no clue defensively.
Yes.
This is news. There's a reason he's only got 2 medals. He's not very good. It's, can hit a penalty. You can't deny that, but outside of that, it's just not very good. Yeah, and I think Celtic playing that, be targeting. I tell you, we've got a defender that takes a lot more stick in him. It was miles better than Carl Starfelt. What a game he had. When was the last time that boy won?
I thought it was excellent, Lawrence. I thought it was really excellent on Sunday.
But the press up here would have you believe, he's ropey, and you've got Captain Penalty over there who's how's he not getting called up for England? The guy's a star. Signing for Real Madrid soon. Showing up again.
Yep.
Showing up again.
And then blames everybody as per usual.
He does his
move,
doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't get
it. I don't get it.
And he's got his angry friend in goal who obviously had a.
You were saying McGregor, was wrong to sign him. I thought he kept the score down. Some crap.
That's a fair
He made good saves towards the end. Absolutely. Yeah. He made usually 2 good saves towards the end of the game.
Kyogo, remember when it looked like Kyogo was going to go around him? Another cracking save. So he kept the score down. Obviously, the press won't focus on that. A few things the press won't focus on, like, the minutes applause for Ron Gordon getting ruined by sectarian singing from them. Mm-hmm. Illegal songs, but, they won't mention that. Obviously, the commentators didn't do that. Or can't put Celtic on their jerseys. It's probably because we're imprinted into our psyche. We live red in our head, don't we?
That really was a new level of pettiness and bitterness, wasn't it? I'm not going to put their name on the shirt.
And straight down the tunnel as well, by the way. There's not many teams that do that, but straight down the tunnel.
Well, listen, see, to be fair, they've seen us winning a million things. They're that stay and see us winning. I see that all the time. Maybe that was it.
The bit I actually quite liked watching it back last night was Scott Arfield still has that kind of daft strut that he's got walking down the stairs, and he had a big long coat on, and he just looked absolutely ridiculous. Scott Arfield, this malarkey, but we know what he's looking out for, and it's another Celtic trophy in the bag.
He's not even the best in Glasgow, you know what I mean?
No.
What about Alistair Johnson? Was it 3 or 4 he get booked for one? You know, time's running out. He draws them into a bit of a strim match, and I think you get 3 booked for the price of 1.
He was phenomenal as well, by the way.
He was excellent.
Alistair Johnson, I've seen a few people on Twitter doubting his sort of on the ball stuff, but I don't see anything to base on that. I think he just, again, Ange's transfer policy, he's filled in seamlessly. He was here before Janovic was even gone, and I thought he was definitely a solid 8 out of 10 during that final on Sunday.
Yeah, and particularly James with him, he's still kind of adapting to that an inverted fullback role. If you think about it, he's not even 2 months fully playing at Celtic. He's got his first trophy in the bag. You see, he's got the right attitude towards this, and Tony Nelson being back in the bench, I think that's only going to push him even more. And it looks to be a top Celtic player just now, doesn't he, Alistair Johnson?
Just to myself.
Yeah, you were talking about Alistair Johnson now.
Yeah, well, Tony Ralston, having competition for Tony Ralston as well has really pushed him on. The arrival of Josip Janovic helped drive Anthony Ralston on, as well as the new system that Ange has handed him to play. And hopefully we can see a similar level with Ralston and Johnson. I think Ralston's sort of creative role in the team is often understated. Because I'm certain he was quite close to double figures last season. If he wasn't in double figures for assists last season, he's always getting forward. He's got a really good cross in him as well. So I think if we've got those two competing with each other, we're sorted at that right back position for the next few years. Because Johnson, he doesn't really look like he'd be going anywhere anytime soon either. He seems like he's fitted in with the squad perfectly. You see, he gets on with the captain really well, and the sort of social media videos they post on Twitter. That's the sort of person you want. He's not just built a squad of good footballers, but of just general good guys as well. If they didn't want to be here and they wanted as welcoming, we had lots more players coming in and going out the door straight away, like we've seen squads of the past.
Absolutely. And Liam, he almost did at times look like he back to his youth days as a hockey player in Sunday. He never struck to any battle at all with any Rangers player.
I like the fact that in the papers leading up to the game they were talking about, is it going to be Ryan Jack or is it going to be John Lundstrom that's the Rangers enforcer on Sunday? Johnson just stepped up and showed, no boys, this is how you do an enforcer's role properly. The yellow card was maybe a bit rash on his part, but when he saw Rio Hatate getting taken out the game, I loved the way he charged up that flank just to get right in the face of the opposition. I like to see that. That is an ice hockey thing. That's something he's obviously picked up for Canadian ice hockey. Because, they actually have the designated enforcer in their team. I'm not proud of this, boys, but I will admit, last night I poured myself a wee glass of wine and I went on some of the Rangers fans' forums to have a look at how they were handling what's happening. And the amount of vitriol that was getting sent Alistair Johnson's way, I thought for a guy who's only been at the club for 10 minutes to inspire that much anger from them already is he'll do for me, definitely.
We've needed a player like that for ages as well, I think. We've sort of been lacking a baddie, a guy with a sort of a bit of grit, but ever since Scott Brown left, the only player I could think that would really get in someone's face like that was maybe Callum McGregor, and that would just be him sticking up for a teammate. So the fact that we've got somebody that can sort of dish it out a bit, you don't want your squad to become a team of thugs, but just someone in there who's got a bit about them.
If you remember right, Chris Ayard used to do quite a lot towards the end. He used to get his selling a wee bit of bother for it, but if a Celtic player, but was targeted, Big Ayard would be right in the mix. Starfield can do it a wee bit too, so you've got a couple of guys in there who aren't shy, which I think you always need, especially in a derby game like that. You always want somebody to be the enforcer, as you called it, Liam. I think that's the phrase of the day. But we'll call Alistair Johnson a Celtic enforcer. I like that. I'm sure he'd quite like that too. But again, you even saw Lawrence a wee bit of a different side to his game. If you think back, we know so much about the fullbacks playing the inverted role and getting into midfield and creating a big overload in there. But the chance he set up for Kyogo, I thought that was 1-0. It was an absolutely tremendous cross in. He couldn't have done any better with the cross, Johnson.
Yeah, Kyogo should have done better, shouldn't he? Yeah, listen, he's fitted in seamlessly. Obviously, Tosh and team are good at identifying the type of player Ange wants. He's been a cracking addition. And yeah, he's one that's going to grow in value as well. So, you know, he fits the model we have as a club. It's great to have him there, but it showed that, you know, he's street smarts now. Get up and get involved. 1 yellow card for 3. He's getting it. The head of a quarter of their team. When there's minutes to go in a cup final, they need a goal to get back in it. You know, it could only benefit us. Them being all over the place. I think it's a cracking player. Be interesting to see how good he'll get, you know, next season once he's been used to in very full part and fully settled in. Yeah, cracking player. Just as an aside, do you reckon like James Tavernier, you know, running up to the cup final, he's going to practice penalties, speak garbage to the media, write an apology speech? Do you think that's his prep for a cup final?
Could be.
Look, I mean,
well, it'd be pretty used to it now.
Let's just give some credit. I mean, we've got a Rangers captain here who's actually clearly mastered joined-up writing. So, you know, that's an advantage. We should, you know, don't be too harsh on the guy. He's obviously trying, you know. He's going to experiment with multiple syllable words next week.
And Leva, I'm sure he was the flavour of the month when you were flicking through some of the forum websites last night, because he goes from being Cafu to, you know, rotten. So yeah, he's one that's always worth a good laugh.
The great thing was the exact same people who last week were saying Beale's the man, he's showing them what it's all about, he's telling them we're all get him out now. You know, the narrative had completely flipped based on one game. And it's you know, it's not big and it's not clever, but by God, I love a pint of Rangers fan tears after a cup final.
I think there's probably a lot of people in the old comments that do as well, Liam, so you're not the only one. James, in terms of the second goal, a wee bit, you know, Callum McGregor deserves a big saying it, because if you think back to the Rogic goal at Ibrox, he drags, I think it's 2 or 3 Rangers players with him and plays the ball into him. He does the exact same thing, picks out Boy, he says Hatate on his bike, gets the ball to him, balls in the back of the net. Again, you know, McGregor, who, again, I thought had a really big impact in the game, especially towards that last 10 minutes, but again, joining in the attack there for Celtic on Sunday.
Yeah, one of the midfield would have been man of the match for me, either McGregor or Aaron Moy. But the player we mentioned earlier, Carl Starfelt, the move starts with him absolutely blasting out of defence and cutting out a sloppy pass. He gets the ball to Cam McGregor, gives it to Rio Hatate. I thought I was calling for Rio Hatate to have a shot, but he'd made the smart decision, cuts it across to Kyogo, gets his second, and he just loves playing the League Cup finals, doesn't he? Is it 2 finals, 2 doubles?
Yep. First player to do that since Billy McPhail in the 1950s for Celtic, to score a brace in 2 League Cup finals in a row. I think Bobby Lennox holds the record for the only player to score in 3 League Cup finals. So that's Kyogo's target, obviously, for next season, is to equal the Buzz Bombs record on that one. But Lawrence, as James says there, some record, and it puts to bed the myth that Kyogo doesn't turn up against Rangers, because I kept saying before, the derby game at New Year, and the first game he plays in the left wing, the second game he's injured, he's then, I think he's still injured for the game at Ibrox. The semi-final, I think he comes off the bench late on in the game, and then the 1 each draw at Celtic Park, I think he was on the bench too. So that was last season covered. Then this season he goes down in about 7 minutes, and Giakoumakis needs to come on in the 4-0 game. New Year, up front, 90 minutes, scores. Sunday, up front, 90 minutes, 2 goals, 3 and 2.
Yeah, he's doing okay. I mean, I think a lot of their fans says he only scores against Diddy teams. I suppose the weekend doesn't disprove that, you know, but we want to see him up in a level in Europe, don't we, next season?
Kyogo's got more goals against Rangers than Rangers have trophies. Just let that sink in.
Liam,
They're only 11 years old.
Liam, he's a player that you know hell of a well. 24 goals for the season now. I think he'll score 30, no bother. As Lawrence does say there, though, you do want him to carry that into Europe, but, you know, his form post-World Cup has been absolutely exceptional, and I'm sure Hajime Moriyasu is probably reconsidering him now just due to his goal-scoring form.
Aye, well, the problem with Japan is that Maeda is the centre-forward for Japan. As you saw at the World Cup, he's very good playing in Japan's system. Kyogo is probably a better all-round player, but the question is, how did Japan fit him into that system? You know, Japan have historically had this problem where they've had great players, but how do they fit them into the system? Because Moriyasu particularly has a very regimented way of how he sets up his team, and it's like there is one centre forward and that's it. So how does Kyogo come into that? Because playing him as a winger, he's nowhere near as effective, right? We've seen that. I've seen that when he's played for Japan. He needs to be a centre forward, but as long as Maeda's doing really well internationally, you know, Kyogo is going to have to. It's quite funny that in one sense, from a Celtic point of view, Kyogo is always in the team ahead of Maeda if you're thinking like priorities, right? But Japan, it's the other way around. Maeda is the man, and it's on Kyogo to displace him, and that's going to be a really interesting one to see how that's going to develop over the next couple of years, because Kyogo's too good a player to not be in the Japan squad. But at the moment, as long as Maeda's still doing the damage up front for them, Kyogo's not going to start at centre forward, so they need to find some way to accommodate him.
Yeah, again, almost Celtic's becoming a wee bit like that. There's a system in place, and you need to have players that fit the system to do the job. But we were talking about the J League and Japanese football, particularly. Tomoki Iwata, I thought it was very good when he came on Sunday. But what was your take on his performance when he came on the park, Liam?
Tomoki Iwata, a lot better than Lavi Wata, Rangers supporters. Yes, he was brilliant. He came on at an important time, showed up the midfield, kept things tight. Like you said before, you know, they were just starting to press a wee bit further up the park. And the combination of O and Haksabanovic giving their defenders a bit of a torrid time, and Iwata just adding that wee bit extra steel to the midfield. It's really, again, it's the squad standards. And Iwata is, you know, a bit like Kyogo with Japan in the sense that he's unlucky that, you know, we've got Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly and Reo Hatate in there at the moment, and Aaron Moy, who are just on another level, and Iwata is going to have to do something special to get beyond that and get, you know, cement a place in the team. And unfortunately, as we saw last season with Ideguchi, defensive midfielders, it's quite tough to get noticed in that position. And with Ange's team, you've got to do something exceptional to become an established fixture, as Aaron Moy and Maeda have done since the World Cup.
Absolutely. A game, possibly, James, at Tynecastle could be the kind of time where you maybe see a similar game pan out that you did at Hampden, and you know, Iwata can come on and take his opportunity. But towards this kind of next wee spell until we get to the split, I think he's going to get some game time under his belt, which he's needing. I don't think it'll be from the start. I think Liam makes a really good point there. You know, Callum McGregor's your captain. He's up against, possibly you could argue, Celtic's most important player at this point in time. But I certainly think he will get some game time, and it'll be in that time that he'll get his chance to impress the manager.
Yeah, I'm always conscious about Celtic signing a defensive midfielder, because we saw the fate that Ideguchi and Abelgard have suffered. No game time at all. So I was struggling to think, where would Iwata improve if he's getting hardly any game time? But you would hope in sort of the next few weeks that we'll get to see that, because I thought he was really good when he came on in the final against Rangers. I thought in the sort of limited time he had, he showed up the Celtic midfield at a point where it looked like things were starting to get a bit too chaotic, starting to get a bit too hectic. Just try and
wanted to stig out the game. Yeah. There was a point with Joe Hart. He got the ball, and I thought, catch the ball and fall to the ground for 30 seconds and just slow it. And he threw the ball, and I thought, oh, for God's sake, just calm it down, Celtic.
Yeah, we're starting to become the game that they want. The Rangers want a chaotic sort of hectic style of football, whereas Celtic just want to play football. We just want to get on with it. And I thought Iwata came on and helped us cement our game in that last sort of 10 minutes, which we saw with the two chances that we had that should have ended up with us with a 4-1 win.
And Lawrence, you know, even though I'm saying there about taking the sting out the game, James has just said that you said it earlier on. I know Rangers were pushing, but Celtic towards the end of that game could have made that goal margin even higher.
Yeah, they should have done. You know, it should have been 4 or 5-1 on chances created there. You know, McGregor, I think he keeps him in it. Poor finishing from us, and even a bad that dive. You know, he's going to buy the ball into the box. He's going to get shot off.
I know that was disappointing, wasn't it? Because I thought it was Nick Walsh's dodgy decision for where I was. I was at F2, so looking across it, I thought free kick, and then my dad was in the south stand. So after the game, he says, "Nah, bad. He did dive. I don't know what he's doing."
Yeah, he's by the guy. He's actually got a shot goal. He's putting the ball across the 6-yard box here. Yeah, it's poor for him. Hopefully he'll learn. You know, he's young yet. Hopefully Ange has had a look with him. But yeah, should have been 4 or 5-1. It was easy. I mean, I suppose the only thing I'm left thinking is, do we win the league before the split? You know, it's done now. I mean, do we get the trophy before the split? Is what it's all about now, isn't it? You know, and I think there's every chance we will. You know, they can't. They must have run out of penalties this season, surely. And if that's the case, I think we'll secure it before the split. And then, you know, you might see Ange, you know, a bit more rotation then, trying a few things out before next season.
7 games before the split, and then the rest after that. So we'll see how that pans out. I think that's right. Yep, 7 games.
Yep.
We'll see how it pans out. Liam, again, you know, but we're talking about Iwata there. A comment coming in here is, I've lost it, but it was saying that they didn't expect to see Iwata and McGregor in the field at the one time. But again, we know that Ange knows him very, very well from Yokohama. He's certainly a player that he wanted to get in. And that might be something I think you see possibly more and more next season when Celtic, you know, back in Champions League, that he's got that option.
Yeah, I think that particularly in Europe next season, you're going to see what the young folks call the double pivot, the two holding midfielders.
Double six.
Aye. And it's, you know, it's like you say, it's another sort of a weapon in our arsenal that we can deploy when we have to. And I really think that that is where Iwata's going to shine, is playing alongside McGregor, because McGregor is a very similar player, but at the moment he's a much better player. Mm-hmm. And you get better by playing alongside better players. You know, look at Tony Ralston, like we just said before. Juranovic and now Johnson are making him a better player. Greg Taylor has come to Celtic and become an absolute sensation. Absolutely. When we signed him, I was like, should we really be signing guys for Kilmarnock? You know, that was kind of my admittedly rather ignorant view of it. And I was proven completely wrong, because he grew as the Celtic team grew. And hopefully Iwata can do the same next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, I think he'll get some game time towards the end of this season. And if Lawrence predictions comes through post-split, we'll be giving plenty of players some minutes in the team. James, question coming in here to ask about Sunday. Stephen Donnelly coming in to say he wouldn't change too much on Sunday. He would like to see Haksabanovic start against Hearts at Celtic Park next Wednesday night. Again, that goes back to the rotation. I'm one of the lucky 1,500 getting to go to Paisley on Sunday, which has become an absolute nightmare for folk who go everywhere with Celtic to get a ticket for now, which is just disappointing. Sunday, I don't think there'll be too many changes, and I'm glad I've got a full week. Players obviously getting to enjoy themselves Sunday, Monday. They're back in today. It'll be back to training park, and again, the manager then says to the players to go again for them.
Yeah, Ange, he knows from what happened the last time we went to Paisley that too much rotation can potentially backfire. So something similar to the team that we lined up with in that cup final, perhaps. Maybe Leo Labada in, if anybody. Although I don't know how you felt about it, but that dive running through on goal in the cup final, that was needless. I was really happy to see that, but I'd hope to maybe see him back in the team for the St Mirren game, because we can't we've got to take them seriously, is what I'm trying to say, because it's backfired before.
I'm glad we've got that week off. As I say, I think at times, even after like the Kelly semi-final, the manager said it took quite a lot out the players. So I'm glad we've got a good couple of days in between. Lawrence, it was reported earlier in the press that Celtic are possibly considering a trip to South Korea in the summer, as well as this possible competition in Japan. On the pitch, we were talking there, things looking really, really good. But in terms of the strategy off the pitch, again, this seems to make absolute perfect sense. If we are going to go to Japan and take on Man City, Bayern Munich, and PSG, why not play a game in South Korea as well?
Seems good, yeah. The only thing that could possibly make it better is somehow getting Safeco to sign up for it and then having to pay a few million quid because you don't fill. Do you think we'd do that for a laugh again? We could get them in the South Korea. Cost them 4 or 5 million. They probably don't have.
Liam will get Tavernier to do when he's joined up writing letters for it, so you could do that if you wanted to.
I can whip it.
What got me was, if you saw the thing ahead of the game, there was some Rangers fans were like, "Oh, here's Celtic's team lineup for the weekend," and it was just all like kanji characters.
Right.
And I was like, "That's Chinese, you muppets! If you're going to have a go, at least look up Japanese characters, you know." But
Liam, let's hear your take on this, because obviously you're over there. I'm sure if you get the opportunity to go and watch Celtic live, if you could get there, you probably would. The trip to Japan makes a lot of sense for Celtic at this point in time.
Aye, the trip to Japan is much more of a commercial thing than the Korea trip. But what might be the thing, and I don't know, but it may actually be part of the deal where we signed that we've agreed to go and play a friendly in Korea at some point. Because I know when we signed Shinsuke Nakamura, for example, that was the last time Celtic were in Japan. Went over and played Yokohama in a friendly as part of that contractual agreement. So yeah, I really put it this way: I had my meeting with the bosses this afternoon to talk about my working schedule and contract from April when the new school year starts here. I've already said to them, I'm probably a couple of days off in May and June. if Celtic come to town.
Liam, you disappoint me. I thought you'd have been doing the Celtic evangelist and the whole school would have been taking a couple of days off.
The Pied Piper. Yep.
Well, emphasis on the Pied. Aye, yeah. It is good actually. That's one of the good things about working here is that because as teachers, you move about quite a bit. It's quite a physical job. So, you wear sportswear to work. So, of course, strutting into work yesterday with my hoops on, I was quite happy. It was quite a good feeling. I was actually kind of vaguely disappointed that I don't work with any of the dark side, you know.
I know that's maybe something that's you've escaped that. Liam, when I was at school, James should have been the exact same as me. Celtic used to, win everything. It always used to beat Rangers, and used to go in and absolutely chuffed to bits to see any Rangers fans that were amongst you.
I think it was my first year. My first year that Rangers came back, so I was just walking in. It was after they beat us in the semi-final. So the year after that, we just wiping the floor with them every single time. And I'm just walking in. I'm like, you can't touch us.
And then you go into uni life and again you're winning tables and all that stuff too. So it's been a good laugh in terms of that. But Lawrence, back to what we were talking there with Japan and South Korea as possible trips again. That is a real benefit of Celtic winning the league title, getting into the Champions League, and you've then got that gap in the summer to go and do these trips, having to come back to play a KR Reykjavik or whoever.
It's increasing our fan base and our commercial revenue as well. We're already the best supported club in Scotland, and it's just further building on that advantage that we have. So, yeah, it's brilliant to do that. But my next trip is a St Patrick's Day weekend, the Captain's Night in town. You'll find the details on the Facebook page. Big Roy, Danny and Tom telling some stories. I'm sure Roy got the last dodgy decision we had against Rangers, wasn't it?
The throwing.
Yeah. They always seem to remind us of that, don't they? But obviously Sharon Brown knows what she's doing commercially. So I think anything that grows the fan base. Sure, Liam, you were saying that you can now even buy the strips in Japan.
Yeah, the Adidas Japan store has certainly the home shirt available now, albeit for about 15 to 20% more than you would pay for it in the UK. But once you factor in the shipping costs and the import costs, whatever, it is actually about the same as I would pay if I ordered it for the Celtic site anyway. So, that's definitely a good thing. And next season, hopefully that continues and I don't have to go through all the nonsense of ordering it from Scotland and getting the new top 3 weeks after everybody else, you know?
Yep. To kind of lastly ask all three of yous, there was a lot of iconic images that came out a Sunday. As a wee kind of different one, I want to ask you, what was your favourite picture you seen? James, I'll come to you in this one. What was your pick of the picks, shall we say, on Sunday?
I'm going to give you two. I'll give you two. Either Kyogo lobbing himself in the air after getting that second goal, big massive fist bump right in there. That was a brilliant moment. Or I think it was either the Green Brigade or the boys. It was one of their megaphones. So I think Jota had somehow got a hold of it. And he's sitting leading the Green Brigade in the big massive crowd with the megaphone. It was just a party atmosphere. It was a celebration.
It was funny after the game. I don't know if the TV covered it, but the players jumped in behind the goal in the East Stand after the game, and Ange went in as well. But watching him try to get over the board was actually quite funny because of the jacket that he had on. He obviously wears that big long coat, and try to, it's hard enough trying to jump over a board when you're maybe in your late 50s, but with the big long jacket, I don't think it was helping him at all. I imagine that was why it got whipped off when the old celebration started. Lawrence, favourite picture for Sunday? Can't be a Rangers one, I want a Celtic one.
So could it be back post Barisic? Logo again. Could it be the Tavernier? He just seems to do that when he scored, doesn't he? Oh, what's going on?
It's not that, it's shouting at my defenders like that.
Could it be the David Brent at the end of the game? Wait to tell him what to do. You've just been scalped again.
Can't be Alan McGregor punting the ball into us either, which he was going to do the first time, then wanted to do the second.
I think Carl Starfelt absolutely dominating with just one of his clearing headers. Absolutely dominated him. And for the stick the guy's been taking, the undue stick, it's partly one of the best defensive partnerships we've had in a long, long while. I just can't believe the amount of stick he gets, but mistaking a guy who can do better. Listen, I think we might be doing well to hold on to him at the end of the season.
It's an interesting one. It's a debate that I think is out there. Obviously, there was rumours last week there is Premier League interest. We've obviously got Kobayashi in the door. But as you say, Lawrence, it's been a really important partnership for Celtic. A lot of folks says getting into the game that it's great that Celtic's got so many attacking and flair players up front, but a big part of our game needs to be a solid defensive partnership. Both of them were excellent. Starfelt had a wee bad moment at the end of the game, which probably took a wee point off him for a 10 out of 10 performance. But what I like about both of them is they don't get sucked in with Alfredo up top. They just dealt with him. They completely dominated him throughout the whole game. Who was not a worry. And I see what you were saying there, Liam, the old narrative in him's flipped again. Everybody wants him out and sacked, and he was disrespectful because he booted the water bottle there. Another picture for you. Liam, iconic image from Sunday. What was your favourite?
You stole my thunder there, because the two things I was going to mention, one was that banner at the end of the game about we set the standards. That was just magnificent. But the other one is kind of the tale of two strikers. Kyogo gets subbed after an hour, sitting on 2 goals, looking at a potential hat-trick. So, most strikers would not be happy at getting taken off when they're on the ascendancy and looking at getting a hat-trick in a cup final. But Kyogo goes off, all smiles, does his thing.
Bows as he leaves the park, as always, too.
Yep. Morelos scores a goal, which is the only thing of any meaning he did in the entire match. And then starts celebration bottles when he gets hooked.
The celebration's now really, really funny because he really gets excited, doesn't he, after he scores a goal? He's jumping in and he's giving all this. And
it reminded me of, you've probably seen that internet meme of the guy on the podium and he's like, "Yay, get up, you whatever." And then the camera pans out and he's actually got the bronze medal.
Mine, I think there's a couple. Ange's got one. He's got the two arms outstretched. I thought that was a really good picture. But I'm going to go with my favourite is actually Greg Taylor. If you watch the clip back, it's somebody in the Rangers end that's videoing the game. When we get the first goal, Greg Taylor has his arm up with the arm across that, and he's making a very polite gesture towards the Rangers fans. So I'm going to go with that one. Because I remember that during the capitulating season, there was a few Celtic fans that had turned on Greg Taylor because of his youth career and where he had been. But I certainly think he's definitely one of us. And one like Alistair Johnson and all the other guys we spoke about earlier on, I don't think we probably gave Hatate enough chat on here earlier on. I thought he was exceptional too on Sunday. He was here, there and everywhere, obviously set up the goal and whatnot. As players who are going to develop and get better at Celtic this season. Gents, pleasure as always. I'm sure we'll be on smiling after more silverware success at Celtic. Long may that continue. Thank you to all our contributors in the comments who all seem in very fine form and happy today. I think if you could probably see their faces, they'd all be sitting with a smile. As always, please do like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you tomorrow here on A Celtic State of Mind.